That's what I do.
You're the most spoiled brat. And you got everybody out here almost full, but it don't last long.
You're right.
I've been here a lot longer
You're
than
right. You gotta figure it out.
You don't have figure out what you have to offer as opposed to going out and get your out.
You're right. That's what I do.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Let me feel this.
You're right.
Hello everyone, and today we're once again talking about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp defamation trial. Today I'm focusing more strictly on Amber Heard and everything to do with her specifically. So trigger warning, I'll be talking about injuries, DV, and SA. I'm here to uncover whether she is a psychopath based upon the criteria. Also here to talk about the new revelations of this past few days and talk about how toxic the Believe All Women movement has become because of this case. And this is coming from a woman who is a survivor. And during the Me Too movement, I also said Me Too. And this Believe All Women movement is overall just toxic because I've covered extensively that Amber Heard is lying. So to believe all women would to believe a liar. So it should be believe all victims. In this case, we do not have a victim besides Johnny Depp, and I believe Johnny Depp. What is psychopathy? Psychopaths are people who demonstrate psychopathy. That's not a diagnosis, but a set of traits. The criteria for psychopathy include psychological symptoms and certain specific behaviors. The measures of antisocial personality disorder, on the other hand, focus mostly on behaviors you can see. And I heard some people were saying the trending Amber Heard is a psychopath hashtag is an ableist term. But based on this, psychopathy is a set of traits and not a diagnosis, meaning it is not ableist, but at this point in time, the word psychopath has been overused, and the meaning of it has been completely lost over time. But let's go over what these traits of psychopathy really are. Insincere charm, easily bored, compulsively lying, manipulative, no remorse or guilt, little emotional reaction, cruel with no empathy, take advantage of others, behavioral problems start in childhood, don't accept responsibility, many relationships. And based on this criteria, can psychopaths be violent? Anyone can hurt another person. That includes people with antisocial personality disorder. But they aren't always violent. Psychopathy, on the other hand, is a strong predictor of aggression and violence over someone's lifetime. The ones I can't really show an example of is behavioral problems start in childhood, because we don't know much about her childhood, but we can speculate based upon what we know about the dynamics between her and her sister and her mother. And many sexual relationships is only speculation once again. A lot of these are going to be sort of subjective, because how do you determine manipulation, for example? So, dealing with this criteria, is she a psychopath? Insincere charm. When Johnny started off his testimony, he described Amber as being too good to be true, just a perfect woman.
She was, it was as if she was too good to be true. She was attentive, she was loving, she was smart, she was kind, she was funny, she was understanding, and we had many things in common, certain blues music and, well, music, literature, things of that nature. So for that year or year and a half, it was amazing.
To me, this is an example of insincere charm, because she made herself be the perfect woman to Johnny, and that would be insincere, because I don't believe she probably liked everything that Johnny liked. I mean, she got upset when he'd play guitar with the old men, for example. And those were the words of Kate James, her ex-assistant. This also could be an example of narcissistic mirroring, where a narcissist, which she's possibly a narcissist, will imitate everything about the person. Their likes, interests, mannerisms, and possibly even outfits. I've noticed earlier in this trial, her outfits seem to mimic Johnny's on the previous day. And overall, it's just unusual behavior, and it's also very fitting of this specific trait of psychopathy. And the next trait is being easily bored. During her deposition, it is plain to see that she is very bored, speaking about the she's went through.
Don't eat. Just real quick, why is she eating?
Just like, why?
It's not sustenance. They're snacky foods. It's just so frustrating to me that that's how little she cares about what's going on. I don't think that a person who is on trial for alleged assault accusations involved in a relationship would just be casually snacking and acting like she's so unenthused about what's going on.
Sorry that the door hit him while he was trying to get into the room I was escaping, or attempting to escape into.
I will mark.
Now, the eating and the resting of the chin on the hand are both indicators that she was bored and didn't really care about the subject matter. And with the resting of the head on the hand, it was right after she was explaining how she hit Johnny with a door because she was trying to escape from him into a room. It's not really fitting for the situation, is it? Compulsive lying. We've caught her in many, many lies during this trial, most prominent of which being her donating $3.5 million to 2 charities from her divorce settlement. It was just proved this week, through her own words, she did not donate the money up to this point. And it was proved that she had the money in her possession 13 months before she was ever sued by Johnny.
You testified under oath, quote, "The entirety of my divorce settlement was donated to charity," end quote. That statement wasn't true.
It is true. I pledged the entirety to charity.
That statement isn't true today, as you sit here today, is it?
It is true. I pledged the entirety.
But you didn't donate it.
Unfortunately,
you didn't donate it. It's a yes or no.
I haven't been able to to fulfill those obligations.
So that's a no, right, Ms. Heard?
I made the pledge. I want to be very clear. I pledged the entirety. I haven't been able to fulfill those pledges because I've been sued.
You had all of the $7 million for 13 months before Mr. Depp sued you, and you chose not to pay it to the charities you pledged it to. Is that correct, Ms.
I
Heard?
disagree with your characterization of that.
Not how this was supposed to go.
What did you do with that money?
$7 million in total was donated to, I split it between the ACLU and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
ACLU.
And
Well, more power to you, because that's something that I've never heard
I wanted
of.
nothing.
The fact she said she donated to both of these organizations was a lie. And the way she tried to backpedal is saying she only said she pledged the money to these places and hasn't fulfilled her obligation yet. But in every single statement, she said the money had already been donated. And this sort of tactic is a form of manipulation, which leads us into our next trait of psychopathy, manipulation. This is an example, and the next example I'm going to use is on May 27th, 2016.
Hey, Amber. Flanked by security, Amber Heard doesn't try to hide the bruise on her cheek. Neither does her lawyer.
You guys, she showed a lot of courage today.
You okay, Amber?
A judge granted the actress a temporary restraining order against megastar husband Johnny Depp. As evidence, her lawyer showed these photos. Heard says this injury was a result of Depp throwing a cell phone at her and pulling her hair during a drug and alcohol-fueled rage. Heard filed for divorce just days after the death of Depp's mother. In court today, Heard provided a witness statement backing up her story of Depp's attack and photos showing damage to the penthouse.
Now this is a news clip from the very time it happened, with all the information that they had at the time. Now why would she choose to get a divorce so soon after the passing of his mother? For one, why would she go to the court when you get a TRO, you do not need to be present yourself to get the TRO? Second, why was the paparazzi there and the news there unless somebody alerted them? And there's another clip where Amber Heard admitted that TMZ knew before Johnny about the divorce.
I didn't want him to find out online that I had or was about to file, or I had already filed for divorce. I wanted him to know verbally. So I was trying to reach him through a third party to tell him. When I say reach, I'm specifically saying I would like him to know information coming from me or coming from Jerry, from me, so that he finds out about the divorce filing or my intention to do so from some other source other than TMZ, which was alerted.
You slipped up there, didn't you, Miss Heard? You let it slip out that TMZ had been alerted to your filing of the domestic violence restraining order, didn't you?
I disagree. That's not what I'm talking about.
And interestingly enough, after the whole charade with the bruise on the face, leaving court, the very next day, she's seen laughing and smiling with her best friend Rocky, with no bruises visible on her face. Like there was never a bruise there. And I like to add, it doesn't look like she's wearing any makeup. So in my opinion, this is a definite example of manipulation, manipulating the media to get the outcome you want. No remorse or guilt. I like to say there's no remorse or guilt because she keeps lying, continuously lying about Johnny's character. And likely that's hurtful to him and she does not feel anything for him. Yet she stated she loved him, and she still loves him, even though he was supposedly her abuser. Not to mention, she filed for divorce days after his mother died. And on the day of, filmed him slamming cabinets, trying to manipulate the narrative that he was angry at her, but he was angry at the world, because his mother had just died.
What happened? Nothing happened this morning, you know that?
Were you in here?
No.
So then nothing happened to you this morning?
Yeah, you're right. I just woke up and you were so sweet and nice. We were not even fighting this morning.
And this sort of goes back to manipulation. What she was trying to do is make it seem that this was a fight about her, but indeed he was just upset about something else. That's why he said, "Were you here this morning? Then nothing happened to you." And at the very end, I clipped it a couple of times, but she laughed. No remorse for what she had just done. She laughed at him, at his pain. And this sort of ties in with our next trait. Little emotional reaction. I mean, you could tell she was feeling very brave, considering this is a man who supposedly her and is slamming cabinets, and she's antagonizing him in a way with very little response emotionally. And there are further examples in the 2016 deposition where she's explaining, once again, the abuse with very little emotion.
I will mark.
I remember hitting you as a response to the whole thing. That's exactly what I just told us.
As you can see, she doesn't seem to care to be there. If anything, she seems very annoyed by the whole thing. And this was only a couple months after she got the TRO because she was so afraid of him. But even just the sound of his voice is just fine. There's no emotional reaction to that, or even to the fact that maybe he's lying on the tape. And this is her reaction to Johnny now, years and years later, versus her reaction to Johnny's voice a few months after all the brutal incidents took place. I make this a point because for me personally, when I heard my assaulter's voice, I had a visceral reaction, or even saw a picture of him. Maybe it's just me and she handled things differently, but still, I expected something more from her emotionally in that instance. Cruel with no empathy. Empathy is being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. I believe that Amber Heard lacks empathy, or she wouldn't continue this charade to hurt Johnny, someone who she supposedly loved, because it's becoming very clear that she was never the victim of Johnny. Johnny was the victim of her. And I could just use the same example of the cabinet slamming video that she made, where she laughed at the end, didn't care about his pain whatsoever, even though she supposedly loved him, even after everything. Take advantage of others. Everything you see here was to take advantage of Johnny. For example, the extortion letter was to take advantage of Johnny one last time and get as much out of him as she could. In addition, we are requesting on Amber's behalf the following: appropriate Pendente light support, exclusive use and possession of the Black Range Rover, the vehicle she is currently driving, with Johnny to continue to make payments, exclusive use and possession of 3 penthouses, with Johnny to continue to pay mortgage, utilities, etc. And not to mention, plenty of money she asked for. It seems to me and to many people she was trying to squeeze as much out of Johnny as she could. And when she couldn't get that, she got the TRO, and she began this whole story. Behavior problems start in childhood. I would say this is very likely for Amber Heard. For her to be the way she is, it's likely this has been going on for a very long time. Her own mother was afraid of her, and her sister as well. Kate James said, Amber treated her sister like the dog you kick, and she has verbally berated her and her own mother. And there are some text messages to say their relationship wasn't the best between Johnny and Amber's mother. Please promise me it would end my relationship with my daughter. I'm so sorry. And that was in reference to deleting the conversation and not telling Amber that they had conversed over the TRO and why she got it. Please delete our conversation. I never want to hurt you two. I always wanted to help. I mess up that a lot, but I'm always here for you, and I think if you'll allow me, I'll just adopt you. That way, it is unconditional. These messages basically say to me that she sided with Johnny, but did not want to lose her relationship with Amber because that is her daughter, which screams toxic to me. This also goes for the relationship she has with Whitney, in which I believe she is being forced to lie under oath for Amber. She recently testified that Johnny came up the stairs behind her when she was standing on the stairs, which is not what was described.
Again, I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back.
It was described that Johnny was already upstairs, and then Whitney came up the stairs when her back was to them. So her and Amber's stories don't line up with each other. It is very clear that Amber Heard does not take responsibility for any wrong she's ever done. She didn't take responsibility for the DV charge she got against Tasha Van Ray.
It was misinterpreted, misrepresented, and completely overreacted upon by 2 individuals in a power position.
She tried to make it seem like it was a ridiculous charge, but she spent the night in jail. And it's become very clear that anything that goes wrong with her case is her lawyer's fault. There isn't any pictures providing the right evidence. Well, I gave them everything.
It wasn't that bad.
That is just
I
not
have a picture
true.
of it underneath the makeup.
What?
That's how I know how to reference it.
A picture you haven't produced or shown
did.
to this jury, right, Ms. Heard?
I produced everything.
But you haven't shown it to this jury.
I would very much like to. It's not my job.
Couldn't be that she didn't have the right evidence to provide to them, could it? In many relationships, this by itself doesn't determine psychopathy. It's all of the traits in one. And overall, for sure, in my opinion, I give her a 9 out of 11. She is a psychopath, and that is based off of all of my analysis, all the research, and a little bit based off of what Dr. Curry said her diagnoses were. And Dr. Curry mentioned abandonment issues.
It's instability, and it's instability in personal relationships, it's instability in their emotions, it's instability in their behavior, and it's instability in their sense of self and their identity. And that instability is really driven by this underlying terror of abandonment. They'll make desperate attempts to prevent that from happening. And those desperate attempts could be physical aggression, it could be threatening, it could be harming themselves. But these are behaviors that are usually very extreme and very concerning to the people around them.
Which seems to be the main thing. Why she would get upset about Johnny leaving a fight. Abandonment. Why she would get nervous when he'd leave for a role. Abandonment issues. Not to say everybody with abandonment issues are violent, but based upon everything, her lack of empathy for Johnny, it's all about her. She can only understand how she feels in these moments of feeling abandoned. And now Johnny leaving her was the ultimate abandonment. Now comes the scorn.
Again, they're not consciously thinking, I'm going to keep my partner from leaving right now. They're just thinking, I can't stand this. I hate my partner. They went from idealizing to suddenly devaluing because of the hurt, and they'll do anything to express that big emotion of anger.
I mean, why else would you put somebody you supposedly love through all this when you know everything is a lie, an exaggeration? It's all intended to hurt Johnny, and she's dragged so many other people down with her. Folks said, what happened to believe all women? And Johnny Depp lost the case in the UK, so why can't we just figure it out? The case in the UK was not proof that Johnny did anything wrong. In that case, Amber Heard was a witness, not a defendant. The defendant was the son. The newspaper outlet that said he was a white and they determined it was likely he was, based upon Amber's testimony, her words alone. There probably wasn't a major need to cross-examine her and find all the holes in her testimonies. But now we see all the holes. I mean, at the time, no one seemed to notice. Amber changed the story about what happened in Australia 3 different times. It was the phone. She didn't see it happen. She suspected it was the phone. It was a glass bottle, self-inflicted. And now, I don't know about you, but I don't think the truth changes every 3 to 5 business days.
Did I lie? Did I lie? Did I lie?
In the words of Chris Rock, believe all women except Amber Heard. But in all seriousness, it should be believe all victims. Abuse has no gender, and I hope we all recognize that now today. These last couple of videos have been tough for me, so I hope you found them informative. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!